Hello and welcome. My name is Jevgenij Rusakov and you're watching TVP World interview from Vilnius. On this day 35 years ago, about 2 million people from Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia joined their hands to form a human chain spanning almost 700 kilometers. It was a peaceful political demonstration that was called the Baltic Way. The day wasn't chosen spontaneously, as it was the 50th anniversary of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. To discuss the meaning of this day, we are joined by the Speaker of the Board of Lithuanian Parliament, Viktorija Čmilytė-Nielsen. Hello, Viktorija, and
hello.
Really glad to see you here.
Thank you.
So, first question, how do you personally remember that Baltic Way? It was in 1989.
Yeah, I just turned 6 at that point.
Yes,
so,
I know that.
So my
I didn't say that, you said that on yourself.
So my memories in one way are not very concrete, they're kind of vague, but also at the same time I remember the overall atmosphere, which even from the point of view of a child was, well, you could feel that it was a special time. Now looking back, I understand that it was a time of great hope, of great unity, of coming out of a certain long period where fear was stronger than resistance. And then suddenly people felt more empowered, more hopeful, more united. And of course it resulted, among other things, in the Baltic Way, which became a symbol, not just in the Baltic countries, a symbol of resistance, but it sounded all around the world. And I think even today, looking back, sometimes we only today start to comprehend what a great achievement it was, how unlikely it was to happen in the way that it happened, how difficult it must have been to organize something like that.
I guess, I bet it was very difficult to
without, without any kind of sort of technical possibilities that we have today. But of course, first and foremost, the meaning of it, what it meant for the unity of our people, and what it meant for the subsequent events that ended up in the liberation and the independence of Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia.
What kind of example was shown on that day to the rest of the world?
Well, I think it was, there were several things. Of course, it was a vivid, not just an example, but a vivid testimonial to the fact that people did not forget where they came from, that they were ready to strive for freedom, that they hoped that freedom and independence was within reach, and that, well, as I said before, that fear started, well, that fear of the regime, of oppression, of possible crackdown was overcome at that point already. Given the numbers of people who stood there.
Almost 2 million people.
Exactly. And so this hopeful signal, the signal that, the world has to, when the rest of the world looks at the map of this part of Europe, they have to see for what it is and not for what former Soviet Union authorities wanted it to look like or to show. So I think there were so many things, but mainly, of course, also that it was a peaceful resistance. That was also the beauty of it.
Do you think Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, are still so united and as they were back in 1989? And how has the situation changed since then?
I think in a different way, but yes, we are still very, very united. Of course, now, well, you could say that we are spoiled in a way by many years or decades already. Even we can boast decades of growth, democracy, respect for human rights, freedom of doing business, traveling all over the world, if you please, and so on and so forth. So these things, of course, they tend to relax societies and individual people. At the same time, of course, Russia's war against Ukraine became an awakening for
kind of a test
as well for the whole world, especially, of course, for Europe, for our neighbors, for our region. And for us, it once again reminds us that that if we want to withstand such imperialistic ambitions of Russia, we have to stand together. I mean, not maybe holding hands on the streets, but working together in different formats, political, diplomatic, any kind of formats we have. We try to take advantage of with our colleagues from Latvia and Estonia in promoting the understanding that the events unfolding on Ukrainian soil today have a deeper, more relevant meaning for the whole of Europe, that it is not some kind of regional conflict, and that I think Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia have been effective in doing, but we also understand that right now is a momentum to finish some projects that have been going on for much longer than they should have. For some years we were kind of relaxed and thought that, well, time is on our side.
By the way, so you say that for some time we were kind of relaxed. Where did this relaxation come from? Have we been just sleeping or what?
No, I think if you look at let's say, progress of the Baltic countries, all the free Baltic countries from the time we regained our independencies, it has been almost a miracle how quickly we grew, that we became members of the European Union and NATO. Now we already celebrate 20 years in both of the unions, well, the Union and the Alliance. So I think for a while it just, there was this kind of strong feeling, especially in the Western Europe, that, there is this end of history thing where the liberal democracy has simply been victorious, that it won, and that the things will go in that direction all over the world. Now we look at that very hopeful, somewhat naive time with a sad smile. But I think it's natural also that while in our countries people were much more mindful of the threat that imperialistic Russia poses, it was still difficult to comprehend that in the 21st century in Europe something like that can happen. So I think it was this perhaps somewhat naive hope that we would not encounter the things that we have encountered was also based on the fact that it was difficult to believe that 24th of February would take place.
Exactly, yes. Well, since you've mentioned Russia already a couple of times, so I cannot leave that without mentioning, do you think something like the Baltic Way could happen in Russia nowadays? And is Russian society, which is probably the most important question here, ready for anything like that to happen?
Well, I would like to give you a hopeful answer, an optimistic answer, but I don't think that it would be that it would be rational right now. It does not seem.
Well, you're a chess player. Let's think rationally.
Well, I think the point is that there is no indication that would allow us to say that in Russian society you have at this point today, I mean at this point in time, this kind of potential for a massive, big uprisal. I recall very well I think it was March 2022 when the full-scale invasion just happened, when some colleagues from Scandinavian countries, from the Nordic countries, were asking, me as speaker and other colleagues, okay, Russian society is bound to rebel. I mean, no one can, look at this, what is happening today when all the information is out in the open, and stay, neutral or stay even supportive of that. But we are more than 2.5 years into this, and judging from the official data, we can make an assumption that about, 500 or 1,000 of soldiers on the Russian side lose their lives daily. And so far, the coffins that come back did not seem to change the mood to the extent where things would start happening in the society. I think, well...
Why is that? Why is that happening, by the way? I mean, I know it's a difficult question, and I personally, I wouldn't even try probably to answer that, but maybe you have some thoughts on that.
I think it's not a question that can be answered lightly, and I generally try to avoid answering difficult questions with simple answers because they never give you the whole picture.
No, never.
I think that, many things are in play, not least the fact that perhaps in the West we also have underestimated what kind of power lies in propaganda, which has been in play, very focused, very sophisticated for many, many years in Russia already. And from today's perspective, when you look back at the most horrible events of the, let's say, past century, you can understand that, well, what seemed to be impossible is actually quite possible given the circumstances where people are brainwashed and where they are generally, somehow very passive. And this passivity is, for the lack of a better word, surprising, but it's actually, shocking. And I don't want to in that respect, the bravery of, some individuals is even more obvious and worth of respect, but still it's just individuals. It's very few people for such a big country.
Well, yeah, I do agree with you. Something, the ice has to break, but I don't know what kind of tectonic changes have to happen back in Russia in order for this ice to break.
Having said that, I would say that it would be also a mistake for us, let's say for the western part of Europe, for us as the Baltic countries, for us as the countries of the NATO eastern flank, to say that there is no alternative to Putin's Russia. Of course, there is a possible democratic Russia, but it is quite far away right now. But nevertheless, Lithuania has been quite, I think, quite strong as a haven for democratic forces from Belarus first and foremost, but also some, refugees from Putin's regime have also ended up here. And I think it is important to keep this, fire alive, however small right now. But of course, it's people in Russia who have to take, responsibility also for what is happening in their country. And while you cannot say that everyone is guilty, but everyone is responsible.
Unfortunately, I have to agree with you. Okay, so my last question. You're a chess player, a good chess player. Let's come back to the Baltic Way. So if that would have been a game of chess, how would you describe the Baltic Way for the Soviet Union? A successful opening, a good middle game, or a last nail in the tomb coffin of USSR endgame?
Well, for our viewers who are not chess players, perhaps it's going to be a sort of complicated explanation. But I would say that, of course, the Baltic Way was a beautiful combination of creativity, of resolve, of bravery, of courage. And yes, it was the endgame of the empire, where the empire was completely on the losing side. But it's not a given that it would have lost if it was not for the people who took it in their hands and who actually were brave enough, were courageous enough, showed to themselves, to their country, and also to all around the world how much they want independence and freedom and democracy. So it was brilliant, and you cannot even reduce it to one comparison with a game.
Okay. Viktorija, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for this brilliant interview.
Thank you so much.
And I would like to remind our viewers that our guest for today was the Speaker of the Board of Lithuanian Parliament, Viktorija Čmilytė-Nielsen. You're watching TVP World. Stay with us.